Welcome to today's webinar. Today we are going to talk about how you can pivot as it relates to your career in this changing and challenging job market. And you can do so by leveraging the power of Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma is still considered to be one of the most sought after credentials, and one that can certainly help you to get hired and to get ahead in your career. We're excited to have you here today, and we appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. My name is Beverly Smith. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Vector International, and I will be your moderator for today's session. I would like to go over a few basic items before getting into today's content. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about Vector International, who we are. One of the areas that we specialize in here at Vector International is professional skills development. And as you can see there, we are a leading provider of Lean Six Sigma training and certification. We are accredited by the International Association for Six Sigma Certification, IASSC. We have trained thousands of professionals from a wide cross-section of industry sectors. And we offer both public and on-site training with different organizations. We offer training in different formats. We offer self-paced online courses. We have virtual instructor-led course, blended learning, as well as a classroom training. For today's session, there are three primary objectives, and I'd just like to take a moment to go over those three objectives. The first objective is that we hope that you will learn a little bit more about Lean Six Sigma. And secondly, we hope that by attending this webinar, you will gain greater insight about the impact that Lean Six Sigma delivers to the business, and also learn about how Lean Six Sigma can benefit you as an individual in your professional growth. And lastly, in the last section there, you will be learning about various Lean Six Sigma certification levels and the steps that you can take to obtain and to build your credential. A little bit of a housekeeping. We would invite you to submit questions in the chat window, and we will be coming back at the end to answer those questions. You can certainly reach out to us after the webinar. And so there's some information, there are contact information. You can visit our website at vectorinternational.com. You can send us an email at info@vector-international.com, or you can call us at 1-877-905-4100. Any of those ways you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer any additional question you may have beyond this webinar. This afternoon we have, or today rather, we have the pleasure of having our speaker, Dr. Brian Galley. Brian is a certified Six Sigma Black Belt and has been so since 2009. He's also a certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt since 2018. He is an industrial engineer and he loves to travel. I think when he finds time, he loves to travel, he loves to bike as well as to camp. So with that, I would like to hand over to our presenter for today, Brian Galley. We also, by the way, have Deanna Rosa, who is going to keep us straight. She will be facilitating today's session as well. So Brian.
Thank you, Beverly. I appreciate the opportunity to present here today to kind of talk about how you can leverage Lean Six Sigma in the changing job market as a tool to, build your experience and build your skill set. To kind of give you a little bit of background about how I came to be in the Lean Six Sigma world. When I graduated with my education in industrial engineering, I went into becoming an industrial engineer, and right away I got exposed to process improvement, quality projects in the practice of Lean Six Sigma. And right away I kind of fell in love with it. I really enjoyed, what it focused on, the tools it uses, the concepts, and those ideas. So I decided I jumped in with my 2 feet, and I earned my green belt, did some more projects, earned my black belt, did a whole series of more projects. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I reached like the apex of the Lean Six Sigma certification world, that being the Master Black Belt. And, now being a Lean Six Sigma trainer, coupled with, project management experience and engineering licensing and experience, it gives me the opportunity when I work with clients and I work with students to educate them on Lean Six Sigma, to help them really understand the ins and outs of the overall world of Lean and Six Sigma. So, I realized, from my experience, the knowledge, the application that Lean Six Sigma can play in any organization, any industry. So as we go forward, this session is going to be interactive, where there's going to be a few questions that I will pose to you, a poll or two that I'll pose to you, as well as a small exercise during our time together today. The first one is right here. I would like you to take a moment to indicate which of the following best describes your level of familiarity with Lean Six Sigma. Have you been one that has completed some form of formal training in the past? Or maybe you've never been trained, but you've worked on a LSS project, or with trained individuals. Or maybe number 3, where you've heard about it in the past, but you know very little about it. Or maybe number 4, where you've never heard anything about it. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to complete this poll, and then we'll talk about the results. Great. I really appreciate everyone's input. It seems like that about 70% of you have selected options 2 and 3. Okay, indicating that while you have not been trained, you know a little bit about Lean Six Sigma, maybe a little bit to be dangerous. I also see that around 20% of you have received some formal Lean Six Sigma training in the past, and then about 10% of you have never heard about Lean Six Sigma. I appreciate your input. And again, it's kind of, this could be a good introduction to some, and maybe a quick refresher for those who have been exposed to it in the past. So we're going to first talk about what is Lean Six Sigma. They are actually 2 different approaches to improving a process from different angles. So in order to understand what Lean Six Sigma is, we first have to understand what an organization is. Any organization, whether you work for a government agency, you are in the military, you work in manufacturing, you work in healthcare, you work in retail, it doesn't matter. Any organization is a collection of processes where they transform inputs like labor, information, materials, knowledge. They go through a series of steps or processes, and they produce an output. It could be a healthy patient, could be a manufactured smartphone, could be, a completed, form for the IRS, could be a completed mission for the military. All of those work around the notion that organizations are simply a collection of processes. And that's the premise that really Six Sigma and Lean are based on. So that being said, what is the idea of Lean and Six Sigma as an organizational tool? Well, it is Lean and Six Sigma, like I said, are 2 different things. One focuses on one process improvement from one point of view. The other focuses on it from another point of view. Both of them are process improvement and, in essence, problem solving and methodologies. Couple Lean and Six Sigma with tools and a structured methodology, it helps to transform the business operation and an overall organizational performance. It helps us to work smarter, not harder, by figuring out where can we make data-driven improvement. And this is something that can be applied across many different industries. For example, in healthcare, could be applied to improve streamline critical processes, such as COVID testing or vaccine distribution. Could be applied to reduce medical errors. It's one of the leading causes of death in the United States, medical errors. So it could be anything clinical or non-clinical. In manufacturing, which is the most often synonymous with Lean and Six Sigma, yes, it's got its roots in manufacturing. It could be to improve defects, to reduce variability, to improve capacity, to reduce expenses, to improve product quality. Those are different aims from the manufacturing world. On the other side, it could be on the service or transactional side, could be finance oriented, where how do we optimize the processes to obtain a loan, to provide customer service at a bank, to approve a mortgage? How do we reduce transaction errors? I know there's been times when I've gone to the bank and there's been errors on transactions that I've made or statements that I've gotten from my bank or my credit card companies. On those cases, those get to the customer. We can utilize Lean and Six Sigma application to help us reduce those errors. And then even in government, and I would include the public sector and military, we can use this to help us identify and reduce wasteful spending or eliminate redundancies. The idea of this slide here points out the key fact that each industry sector can use Lean Six Sigma, and then Lean Six Sigma application is industry independent. At the end of the day, everything from flying on a plane to making a product to delivering healthcare to doing a government service is a process. Those processes can be understood and improved. So that being said, I'm going to ask you this question here. What is wrong with this picture? I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. When you think about this picture, what word or phrase comes to mind when you look at this image? And you can answer this in the chat window. Okay, I'm seeing words like random, disorganized. Paul says it's hazardous. Max is saying it's dangerous. Okay, some people are saying it's really messy. One person says it looks like my office. Okay, I appreciate everyone's inputs. Okay, all of these words represent the opposite of what lean is about. Lean can actually be utilized to not only improve your workspace, okay, but also improve the operations, the efficiency of things in the workplace. So in this piece, what we want to do is understand what we call the value stream. The value stream is everything from soup to nuts that it takes to take raw materials, that is the material that we purchase, transform it, and deliver it to the end customer. And involved in that is a series of different stakeholders who are used to complete different parts of the operation. We can model and understand, by modeling and understanding each of those different elements of the value stream, we can optimize the value stream. So in the middle of this image here, you can see here materials purchasing, new product development, into manufacturing, into testing, sales marketing, distribution, managing the customer, and finance. It is not just about, when we say we want to reduce defects in the product, making a smartphone, it's not just about manufacturing. It's everything from raw materials to the end delivery to the consumer. This highlights the 5 key principles of lean. The first principle is understand value. And this is not what we think is valuable, but what is value as per the customer. Put yourselves in the shoes of the customer and say, what are they willing to pay for? Once you understand the value stream, then once you understand value, then you want to map the value stream. You want to map the value stream in order to understand where are the potential inefficiencies, where are the potential value-added pieces, and what we also call non-value-added pieces. The third principle of lean is the idea of continuous flow. Once you understand the non-value and value-added activities in your value stream, we can then figure out how do we create better seamless flow between each partner or part of the entire value stream. The fourth part of value stream and lean is the idea of How do we then create pull where it goes based on actual demand, actual customer replenishment or consumption? Again, by understanding the value stream, we understand what is meant, and then from there, what is needed to give the customers what they need, when they need it, where they need it, with the minimal amount of resources. And then the fifth principle of lean is the idea of how do we relentlessly pursue perfection? It's the spirit of continuous improvement. So it's not just enough to settle for improving the process, this overall value stream once or twice, but look to strive to get to perfection over the long term. Once you understand those 5 key principles in the value stream, you also in the value stream, you want to understand the flow of where things are going and coming from. So you'll see on the bottom of your screen where it says material flow and product flow, the process and material flow from materials to finance to the customer at the very end. Information, though, about how much we need, where we need it, when we need it, goes upstream from the customer to the raw materials. You have to understand those linkages in order to optimize the value stream. This introduces the overall lean philosophy of produce what is needed when it's needed with the minimum amount of resources. Think about the application here where in a healthcare, we've all probably been, with someone or ourselves going to the doctor. I want to get some more engagement here, and I want to ask, what might be some opportunities for improving a healthcare facility? Think about your doctor's office, the hospital you've gone to. What could be some opportunities to improve healthcare, the facility? Okay, Helen says waiting time. Mark says too much paperwork. Paul says billing issues. Marjorie's saying long waiting times. Ian said COVID screenings. Anna's saying waiting time. Nancy's saying waiting to see the doctor. There seems to be a lot of issues on waiting time. I could definitely agree with that. We're always waiting for something when it comes to the doctor, whether it's waiting on information, waiting for the doctor, the nurse, waiting for results. Okay, again, thanks for all of that input. The idea is that some of the things that you pointed out, waiting, too much paperwork, defects, and such, introduces what we call the different forms of waste. A gentleman in the lean world, known as his name is Taiichi Ono, one of the chief architects of the Toyota production system, which kind of created, in a way, the lean approach to process improvement. He talked about what we call the 7 deadly wastes, which I'll introduce in one moment. But there has been an 8th waste added in recent years, identified by a gentleman called James Womack, called underutilization of human capital or skill sets. So when it comes to applying Lean Six Sigma to any place, whether, in this example here being healthcare, we want to strive to look for different forms of what we call the 7 wastes. This first one is defects. This is, let's say, billing issues. If I were to, I can't even tell you how many times I've had a billing issue that I get from my insurance company, my healthcare providers, where then my wife or I have to call in to get the billing issue corrected. Whether it's wrong patient information, wrong insurance, wrong signatures, wrong account number, whatever it may be. A defect is an area where a nonconformity is made. Those lead to rework. Those lead to scrap, potentially, in manufacturing environments. Overproduction, considered the worst waste of all, okay, because it amplifies all the other waste. Making more than what the customer needs or the patient needs at this given time. Overprocessing, having too many redundant steps, too many approvals, too many reviews, too many layers of inspection in manufacturing, for example. All of those are examples of overprocessing. Then we have waiting. Waiting is the most evident, in the service world, like for example, in healthcare, we wait for information, we wait for documents, we wait for people, we wait for materials, we wait for exam rooms, whatever it may be. Inventory, the fifth one. Inventory, again, if we make more than what we need, whether it's raw materials, work in process, finished goods inventory, all of those are waste in the lean mentality. Why? Because until we sell it, it's ours and it's taking up space. Yes, financially, it's considered an asset on our books. But until we sell it, it's considered a waste because it's taking up real estate. The sixth waste is known as motion. For example, how many have ever needed to search their garage for something, or search a closet, search a supply desk, search a warehouse for something, whether it's, missing material, missing documents? I know I've had to search in my garage, and I should be practicing what I preach. I've had to search in my garage numerous times to find a specific tool or a specific item. And like many of us probably have a junk drawer or a miscellaneous drawer in our kitchens where we throw a lot of, items that we use once in a blue moon. The idea of not utilizing our people properly and needing to search for stuff, that's a waste activity. The next one is what we call transportation. Transportation is unnecessary movement of material, documents, supplies around the facility. So for example, needing to load up a forklift with material to move it 500 feet, back in the behind of a facility, only to do one small operation to move it 500 feet back, to do another operation to move it 500 feet again. Every time you move something unnecessarily, you increase the risk of defects, you increase the risk of things getting lost, and you're creating more motion, for your stakeholders in the process. That eighth one that was added by James Womack, the underutilization of human capital, is also an important one to introduce, because a key idea of lean is valuing the input of your employees, of your stakeholders, of the people. And who else better knows how to improve their own process than the people who do the work on a daily basis? So that eighth waste, and it's become what's called the 7+1 deadly wastes, can really be critical to help us to improve the operations and the efficiency. Overall, all of these different wastes, by applying Lean Six Sigma, we can apply this to improve these 8 wastes, to improve quality and efficiency, not only in healthcare, but almost pretty much any industry. So what I'm going to ask you to do, based on the instructions here, I'm going to ask you to enter the highest number identified in the chat window once we go to the next slide. I want you to find numbers 1 to 49 in sequential order, such as 1, then 2, then 3. So you can't just find 2, then 8, and then 20. It has to be 1, 2, 3, all the way to 49. I want you to see how high you can count, but again, you need to go in sequential or numerical order. You will have 30 seconds to complete this. And again, once you finish after 30 seconds, in the chat box, type in the highest number that you identified. Okay, ready, set, go. And stop. Okay, I'm seeing 3, 7, 5, 2, 0, 7, 9, 0. Okay, a lot of single digit numbers, and I appreciate the honesty for those that identified or could not find the number one. It is difficult. When I did this exercise my first time ever, I got, I think, like 3 my first time around. Okay, so what were some of the issues that, and again, you can add this to the chat box. What were some of the issues that you identified with the slide, this slide here? Okay, I'm seeing that some are writing, it's too random, it's jumbled, the page is chaotic, the fonts are upside down, you couldn't find the number one, too much variation. Okay, so the purpose of this slide is to really introduce one commonly used tool or concept in the lean world known as 5S. 5S is the idea of a workplace organization technique. There literally is 5 S's. It is sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. The idea is that we take a structured approach to help us organize the workplace and standardize how we organize and then sustain that over the long term. This is a common tool utilized in the lean world because it is easily understood for the most part, since a lot of people, whether it's personally or professionally, are able to organize. People at home organize their closets, their kitchens, their garages. So it's relatively an easy concept for people to wrap their heads around. Another benefit of 5S is that it's relatively inexpensive to implement. And then the last is that you can readily see results pretty quickly. So the idea is that this 5S workplace organization technique or concept is a good starting point for any organization or individual on their lean journey. So that first S stands for sort. The mentality here is when in doubt, throw it out. We separate out the unneeded items versus the needed items. So one thing that I pointed out to you was I wanted you to highlight or find in sequential order numbers 1 through 49. But what you will probably see on the slide is that, guess what? There's other numbers like 68, there's 47, or 72, 54 that are not needed. So we're going to implement that first S here of sorting out. We're going to get rid of the stuff that we don't need, and we're going to introduce just the stuff that we need. So what I'm going to ask you to do is same 30 seconds. I'm going to ask you to see how many can you find in sequential order now that we've scattered just 1 through 49 and we've gotten rid of the numbers 50 and above. Okay? So I'm going to give you another 30 seconds, and I want you to see and record in the chat box how many you can find in numerical order. Ready, set, go. Okay, time. And I'm seeing in the chat box much higher numbers, 12, 18, 15, 20, 10, 25, 9, 18. Great. Okay, again, thank you for your input in that exercise. So when you think about just simply sorting out what is needed versus what is not needed, this highlights a really critical but simplistic concept in the lean world. Okay, and that's what, again, one of the reasons why the idea of 5S works, and it's a really good starting tool. So again, just to review, those 5 S's were sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. While we only touched on the sort, we can always, circle back and learn more about how to straighten, how to shine, how to standardize, how to practices for sustainability to improve our 5S technique. So then let's get into the idea. Let's segue into Six Sigma. Six Sigma is different than Lean. While Lean focuses on waste elimination and the velocity of a process to reduce that value stream, to improve value added, reduce non-value added, Six Sigma is different. Six Sigma is a structured, data-driven decision-making approach that looks to reduce variability in the process and reduce defects in the product. Okay? The idea is if we were to do this process 1 million times, how many defects should we expect in our process? And if you have a Six Sigma process, the idea is that we would have 3.4 defects for every million widgets, million times we did the process. So Six Sigma dissects the process in order to understand their sources of variability and how we can eliminate those in order to reduce product defects. Let's talk about a little history about Six Sigma. Well, Six Sigma started in the 1980s in Motorola by a gentleman named Bill Smith. And it was first created as a way of measuring process capability. How well is the process capable of meeting customer requirements? So it was really a metric, okay? And it helped Motorola at the time realize $17 billion in savings. Then it kind of moved into late 80s, into the 90s, into other companies, such as GE or Allied Signal. Allied Signal, now commonly known as Honeywell, used it in non-manufacturing processes like supply chain, contracts, quality, human resources. GE, under the leadership at the time of Jack Welch, really took it and created it as like a business philosophy. Not only, we do Six Sigma in addition to our normal job, but we do Six Sigma as the way we do business. So the nice apple pie in the sky is that both Honeywell and GE added millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in savings to their performance. And then in the 2000s, it really became kind of like a bit more of a business model management system where, again, we integrate the idea of strategic execution, our vision and philosophy, and it became how a lot of industries started working to improve their effectiveness to reduce defects and variability. So in the 2000s, it moved into non-manufacturing sectors like retail, healthcare, government, and so on and so forth. And it's really, since like the mid-2000s, started becoming more and more integrated with lean principles. And yes, the Six Sigma evolution continues, becoming more data-driven in the advent of things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive and prescriptive analytics, advancing Six Sigma even further. One of the key things that was introduced by GE and Allied Signal Honeywell in the 90s was the structured 5-phase DMAIC approach. The nice thing about DMAIC, DMAIC, or define, measure, analyze, improve, control, is that it's a structured problem-solving approach. Each of these different phases has a set of commonly used tools, but also a set of objectives or deliverables. So a define is focused on understanding the problem or the opportunity and the process that you're trying to improve, figuring out the scope of what is not part of your project. Measure is now going out and starting to collect data, doing a measurement systems analysis to validate our data collection process, to make sure we're getting good data, because you don't want garbage data, because that will invalidate the rest of the phases. And in the measure phase, once we collect sufficient amount of data, we look to establish current process performance or baseline in the current process. The analyze phase is taking all the data that we collected to help us essentially answer one real question. What are the root causes, or what are the sources of variability? So we do a lot of statistical analysis, a lot of qualitative analysis to help us understand really what are the root causes of the process performance. The improve phase is probably one of the more fun phases in my experience, because now you're coming up with these solutions that you're going to test and implement on a large scale. And we'll focus on reducing waste and eliminating variation, and also focusing on implementing the change. The control phase, also a very important phase, is now that we have a new process performance, like a new normal, how do we sustain the new performance for the long term? What, could we use quality control? Could we use mistake proofing, robust design, control plans to help us maintain desired performance levels? The idea of using a structured approach is sustainability, not just for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but for the long term, over the period of whatever that long period is, whether it's a year, 2 years, 10 years. I've worked on projects that were done in 10 plus years ago, and they're still going strong. The idea is that for you find the opportunity to take a structured approach to understand the current state, get to a target future state, and then figure out how to sustain that new state, that new normal for the long term. So Lean and Six Sigma while they're two different things, they complement each other very well. Lean focuses on like the waste and the flow, or the efficiency of the process. Six Sigma focuses on variability and defect reduction to get to essentially like perfection. So they both look at a process to dissect the process and understand the linkages between inputs and outputs. And then utilizing different tools and concepts from both Lean and Six Sigma, we can make a better data-driven conclusion about what improvements need to be implemented to reduce the waste or reduce the variability. So let me ask a question. Well, what does this mean for the business? Well, according to organizations such as the Six Sigma Academy, Six Sigma black belts can save companies over near $250,000 every project, depending on the size of those projects. But the idea is that this can help a company to achieve, better, faster, and cheaper performance. So yes, you are attaining your bottom line, but you're also improving productivity, reducing defects, improving morale, not just one time, but for the long term. Let's say for this business application example here, this is a real world project that was worked on with folks at Vector International. It's a real world project where this New Jersey tax preparation company, kind of like a company like H&R Block, but not H&R Block, was seeking to improve their business performance. So they utilized Lean Six Sigma as a vehicle to improve their business performance. When they understood the business challenges, they had challenges such as clients experiencing long lead times when they submitted their tax paperwork to when the tax forms got filed. High defect rate, meaning a lot of tax filings were rejected or had errors in them, and the IRS found those errors. Or high rate of client attrition. The clients were not happy, so they went somewhere else. And a high work in process inventory. They had one CPA, certified public accountant, that had to review all of the different tax filings. So while they had different people prepare the tax filings, before all the tax filings could be submitted, they had to be reviewed by the one CPA they had on staff. So that one person, if they were not available, or if they were busy that day, or they were backlogged, it created a larger backlog for all the other ones pending to be evaluated. So by utilizing Lean Six Sigma tools, such as high-level process maps to understand the flow of the process, value stream mapping to understand details of where the material, process, and information flow is coming from, going out and doing data collection about where were the defects and the issues, the problems originating or coming from, going to. One thing that we identified was the fact that a lot of their staff were located on different floors of a building. So they had to constantly travel up, 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors in order to hand off documents or pick up documents. That time alone, the unnecessary transport, the unnecessary motion of needing to search for things led into a lot of inefficiencies in the process. So using Lean Six Sigma as the main vehicle and that DMAIC approach, we started by defining the problem, measuring the current state, analyzing it through Lean and Six Sigma tools to understand what the improvements needed, suggestions needed to be. And then we had to put in controls to sustain the improved performance. Let's talk about that sustained or improved performance. The improved performance, for example, a 50% reduction in lead time. That meant that it went from taking, let's say, weeks, and it was cut by half. So that lead time from when you submitted your paperwork to when they got submitted, the tax filing got submitted to the IRS was cut in half. The process sigma, again, the goal is to get the 6 sigma, went from 3.4 sigma to 5. And yes, while it's not at 6 sigma, the idea of continuous improvement, once we got to 5, how do we get to 6? We also led to a cost avoidance because during certain times of years, usually January through April, tax preparation companies like this one here have to hire temporary part-time employees that will help with the influx of tax filings for corporations or for people for that time of year. But by improving the process, we actually helped them reduce $80,000 in cost avoidance because they didn't need to hire so many part-time employees. Another benefit was their revenue grew by 30% because they had more capacity, because they were able to process things. Again, that lead time being from when the process starts to when the process ends, their lead time reduced by half. They were able to take on more capacity, more work. And then lastly, they implemented a continuous improvement plan for the long term, not just for this one project or this one result to be sustained for a short period of time, but for a longer period of time. So again, this is just one success. This could be organizations that you work for, organizations that you may work for as you go through your career. So the idea of Lean Six Sigma is that it focuses on how do we deliver things faster, cheaper, better by dissecting it, by dissecting the process and actually seeing it as a process. And again, it helps to develop employees, lower cost, increase sales, produce higher quality products or services, and improve overall customer experience. And that customer experience will lead to long-term customer loyalty, which leads to long-term company growth. But the idea, the bottom line is that it delivers business level results of faster, cheaper, better. So what does it mean for you as the individual? Well, as the individual, these are some experiences that our various clients or students have seen over the years. Elizabeth, for example, provided us this feedback that she wished that she started it earlier, in her career. That's a very commonly provided comment that we get from students, is that, again, they wish they got exposed to this earlier. But again, there's never too late. Even if, you're in career transition or you're retooling yourself, there's always, I like the idea, if you're not learning every day, you're not helping yourself. So you can always seek to grow further by exposing yourself to Six Sigma, to Lean. Or Juan here, who, says that, by having Lean Six Sigma Greenbelt training, it helped him to land his dream job. Okay. The idea here is that it helps them to, not only grow, whether it's their current job or even their potential future employers. Or Laura here. Laura started a new job in this full policy lifecycle process. And she immediately started deploying Lean Six Sigma tools. And by doing this type of methodology, she took a process that used to take 20 months and got it down to 3 months on average. That saved tons of money for her employer. And as a result, she immediately got a promotion that increased her HR responsibilities to global level versus regional level. So again, some of these are examples of success stories, but that could be, like yourselves in the future. So at the end of the day, it helps to improve your potential for job opportunities, potential for promotion opportunities, potentials for earning more. Research shows actually that people who go on to earn a Six Sigma black belt on average can earn up to $40,000 more than someone who is just as qualified but does not have a Lean Six Sigma black belt certification or experience. So the idea is that you want to do something to differentiate yourself versus your competition for the job, that job. Okay. So not only that, but it can also provide, improve morale for the organization, improve skill set for you individually, provide you better opportunities for mobility. Whether you transition to another company or another part of your current employer, it gives you better opportunities for mobility across different industries. I, for example, started in manufacturing. I went to work in healthcare and then health insurance. So I segued and I used those same tools and certifications, and I went from a manufacturing environment to a service environment. And I can attest that I did see a significant increase when I got my black belt in earnings. While it's not guaranteed, that's a nice benefit of earning your Six Sigma certification. So let's actually talk about the Lean Six Sigma training and certification. The nice thing about Lean and Six Sigma certification is that you don't have to pursue every single certification or every single belt. There are different levels. White belt is a very, very high level, maybe a short introductory course into some of the lingo, terminology, some of the basic ideas, concepts of Lean and Six Sigma. Yellow belt is a little bit more in the weeds. They're a little bit more like team members, and they get a little bit more experience knowing what Lean and Six Sigma tools and concepts are. Green belt is, I would have to say, the most commonly sought after certification, and also sought after certification for jobs out there. If you were to search, in terms of certifications, a lot of potential employers or jobs look for some form of Six Sigma green belt certification. These are people who have a good understanding of how to facilitate problem solving, how to facilitate the tools, how to manage these tools, how to manage the team, how to manage the project. It's kind of like a project manager for Lean Six Sigma projects. A black belt is someone who has much more experience and training and education in analytics, doing much more higher, organizational level, more complex projects. And then the master black belt is someone who is getting more experience, not only with mentoring and coaching large organizational wide projects, but also getting more into the education and training aspect of training black belts, green belts, yellow belts, and white belts. Again, the most commonly sought after one that we see, and I would say in my experience, is the green belt certification. So you might, go right into green belt and stop at green belt. You might start at green belt and build on your prior level and earn a black belt. I jumped right in years ago, many years ago now, and I went from green belt to black belt to a few years ago, I went to a master black belt. Each one builds on each other with experience, training, deliverables, project, a number of projects you've completed. So the idea is that Lean Six Sigma delivers a good boost to your resume. It helps you get noticed and get ahead versus your competition. It also you can build it on your, LinkedIn profile, your resume. So that way you can show your, recognition that you've worked towards. It gives you a set of tools and techniques to help you work, smarter, not harder at your job, whether your job is your current job or your future job. It gives you a greater means to hopefully earn a higher income in the future, or go into a field or an industry that you want to go into. So right now at this point, what we are offering is for our people or our students that are in career transition due to the tough economic times, we're offering a 20% discount on all courses for individuals in career transition. The career code that's on the screen here, Career 21, can be utilized to get a 20% discount on all the different courses that are offered and through Vector International. Vector International has a wide array of courses, live stream, instructor-led, self-paced, for all the different levels of certification. So I really highly recommend that if you are thinking about going for certification, that you consider this opportunity, because it helps you not only build your resume, but also potentially invest in yourself, but at the same time, save some money on your investment. We're now going to go into the questions and answers portion of our class or our session by looking at the chat window and seeing what questions are there.
Mark is asking, is Vector International an accredited learning Lean Six Sigma training provider? And Mark, the answer is yes. We are accredited by the International Association for Six Sigma Certification. Have another question here from Aaron. Aaron is asking, do I need to take the white belt and the yellow belt course prior to taking the green belt course? And that's a great question, Aaron. And the answer is no. You actually can go directly to the green belt level training. There are no prerequisites for green belt level training. And also very important, as Brian has mentioned, the content of the white and the yellow are also included in the green belt. So you won't be missing anything. You'll still be covering the fundamentals that we cover in the white and the yellow belt at the green belt level, and then you'll be continuing to do further, do more tools and continue on with your training beyond the yellow belt level. I have a question here also from Julie. Julie said, do I have to have a strong background in statistics? No, I know a couple of times you make reference to some statistical analysis, but all the way up to the green belt, we effectively assume that you know nothing. And so any statistics topic that we cover, we will take your time to go through the basics and cover the basics before we talk about how you can apply it. So we don't have any assumption that you have a strong statistics background at all. Another question here from Max. Max said, do I receive a certificate upon completing the training? Yes, you do receive, upon completing the training, the course modules, you receive a training completion certificate. And once you have successfully completed the certification test, the certification exam, you will receive another certificate, which would indicate that you are now certified. So if it's a green belt level training, it will indicate that you're green belt certified. Two more questions here. A question from Nancy. Nancy is asking, at the training, after the training, does Vector offer the certification exam? And yes, we do offer the certification exam. We give you some time to prepare for that exam, but your registration fee would include the certification fee as well. And so we do offer the exam, and we cover the details of the exam in the actual training itself, so you know exactly how to prepare appropriately for that exam. And the last question here I'm seeing from Paul. Paul is asking, what is the current pass rate for the certification exam? A lot of questions about the exam. Currently, we have a 98% pass rate on our exam. As kind of mentioned earlier, we do place significant emphasis on the practical application of Lean Six Sigma. And so we want to make sure that people understand the concept and they're able and confident to apply those concepts to their work, to their job. And so, we want to make sure, again, to put a lot of emphasis of that practice and application during the training. However, you do need to demonstrate that you do understand some of the basic concept and you have some level of proficiency, and that's what the examination is evaluating you for. But we have a very high pass rate, and we do give people, you do have a maximum of 3 attempts at taking the exam. So those are all the questions. Again, if you have other questions, you can certainly send us an email. And I think the email address is shown on that slide. Again, it's info@vectorinternational.com. Or you can call us at 877-905-4100. With that, thank you, Brian. And I want to thank everyone for attending today's session. And we look forward to seeing you in another webinar session where we'll discuss some more application of Lean Six Sigma. So thanks, everyone.